Eskay and colleagues headed to Greenland in search of frozen ancient dirt. Now, a team of scientists have sequenced the oldest DNA ever recovered. So one of the best places to look for any ancient DNA is ground that's been continuously frozen.
Deep beneath miles of crushing white silence, Greenland is hiding secrets it was never meant to give back. For eons, the ice acted like a massive vault, locking away ancient biological blueprints and jagged geological scars. But that vault is finally cracking open. What scientists are pulling from the slush today isn't just data, because it's a ghost of a world we don't recognize, and a warning about a future we aren't ready to handle. Some things were captured in Greenland, and you won't believe it. The ground beneath. At the far northern edge of the world, in a place called the Cap Copenhagen Formation, scientists have uncovered a biological time capsule that technically should not exist. By drilling deep into the frozen earth, researchers managed to pull 2 million-year-old DNA out of the sediment. This is not just old. It is officially the oldest DNA ever sequenced on the planet. It beats the previous record holder by a full 1,000,000 years, completely shattering our scientific understanding of how long the building blocks of life can actually survive. This find reveals that Greenland was not always a barren wasteland of ice and rock. Instead, it was once a lush green forest, teeming with life that looks like it belongs in a different dimension. The genetic fragments tell a story of a lost ecosystem where massive cedar trees grew alongside poplars. Even more shocking was the animal life found in the samples. The DNA proves that mastodons, the giant, hairy ancestors of modern elephants, once roamed the northern tip of Greenland. They lived alongside reindeer, geese, and even horseshoe crabs in coastal waters that were significantly warmer than they are today. This was a vibrant, open-bore forest environment existing in a place that is now a frozen desert. Finding mastodons this far north rewrites the entire map of ancient animal migration and proves that life can adapt to extreme shifts in ways we never previously imagined. But this discovery is more than just a history lesson. It is a mechanical blueprint for a warmer world. Scientists are now studying these ancient genes to understand how these plants and animals survived a climate that mirrors exactly what we are heading toward today. They are looking for the specific survival code that allowed a forest to thrive at the doorstep of the North Pole. As the ice retreats today, it is exposing this ancient graveyard, turning a barren island back into the muddy landscape it was millions of years ago. We are literally watching the deep archive of Earth's past unlock itself in real time as the permafrost fails to keep its grip. While the return of ancient forests sounds like a fascinating transformation, it highlights a much darker reality. The speed at which this old world is resurfacing suggests that the ice sheet is not just melting, it is structurally collapsing. We are digging up the past only because the present is disintegrating. The mastodons and the forests are a reminder that the permanent ice is actually a temporary lid. This data tells us that Greenland is incredibly sensitive to temperature changes, and once the process starts, it is nearly impossible to stop. Now that the lid is coming off, we are starting to see that the island is not just a solid block of ice, but a hollowed-out shell with its own hidden plumbing and secrets. This ancient genetic data provide a window into a world that lived without ice. It forces us to realize that the current state of Greenland is the exception, not the rule. The terrifying part isn't just the fact that things are changing, but how fast the Earth can pivot from a frozen fortress to a muddy, steaming forest. As the frost thaws, the very ground beneath the scientists' feet is giving up secrets that have been silent for 2 million years. Is it possible that the biggest threat isn't what is trapped in the dirt, but the massive, invisible forces moving beneath the ice itself? The giant's veins. For decades, we looked at Greenland from above and saw nothing but a flat, featureless shield of white. We assumed the land beneath the ice was just a jagged, frozen floor. But when scientists used deep penetrating radar to see through the 2-mile-thick ice sheet, they realized they were wrong. They discovered something massive hiding in the dark. It is a mega canyon, a scar in the earth that stretches for over 460 miles. To put that into perspective, this hidden valley is longer than the Grand Canyon in Arizona. It snakes from the center of the island all the way to the northern coast, buried under a massive weight of frozen water that has kept it invisible for millions of years. This isn't just a dry trench, it is a giant's vein. Scientists believe this canyon acts as a subterranean highway for meltwater. As the surface of the ice warms, water doesn't just sit there. It finds cracks and holes, plunging thousands of feet down until it hits this ancient canyon floor. Once there, it flows like a dark river, a hidden torrent of liquid water moving at high pressure beneath the ice. This river lubricates the base of the ice sheet, acting like grease on a slide. Instead of the ice being anchored to the rock, it is essentially floating on a film of water, making it much easier for massive glaciers to slip off the land and crash into the ocean. The existence of this canyon changes every model we have for sea level rise. Before this discovery, we didn't fully understand why Greenland's ice was moving so fast. We now know that the island has a built-in drainage system that is working against us. This dark river is effectively hollowing out the ice sheet from the inside out. The canyon funnels heat and water directly into the heart of the island, reaching areas that should be frozen solid. It is a plumbing system designed by nature that is now being overloaded by a warming atmosphere. The more it melts, the more the river grows and the faster the ice disappears. What makes this find so unsettling is the sheer scale of the unknown. We are talking about a geographical feature larger than most European countries that was completely hidden from human eyes until very recently. It serves as a humbling reminder of how little we actually know about our own planet. We are standing on top of a world that is shifting and flowing beneath our feet, and we only just noticed the pipes. The canyon is a silent witness to Greenland's past, carved by ancient rivers before the ice even existed, and now it is the very thing facilitating the ice's destruction. The giant's veins are pulsing with more water every year, and the pressure is building. As this hidden network carries more and more liquid to the coast, it weakens the structural integrity of the entire island. We aren't just losing ice from the top because of the sun. We are losing it from the bottom because of this invisible drainage. It is a dual threat system that makes the total collapse of the ice sheet look less like a slow melt and more like a sudden structural failure. If the canyon is the highway, the water is the vehicle, and it is heading straight for the sea. But as massive as these physical structures are, they are still just rock and water. What happens when the things hiding in the ice are actually alive? The microbial vault. While the massive physical structures of Greenland are enough to rewrite our understanding of the planet, the smallest inhabitants of the ice might be the ones with the sharpest teeth. For decades, the scientific community viewed the Greenland ice sheet as a sterile, frozen desert, a place too hostile for anything to survive. But recent breakthroughs have shattered this myth, revealing that the ice is actually a living, breathing microbial vault. Scientists have discovered giant viruses thriving on the surface of the ice sheet for the first time. These are not your typical viral particles. They are biological anomalies that grow to 2.5 micrometers, larger than most bacteria, and carry a massive, complex genome that allows them to repair and replicate their own DNA in ways that standard viruses simply cannot. These giant viruses have been found living in the dark ice and red snow across Greenland. They aren't just dormant leftovers from the past. Researchers used mRNA analysis to prove they are active and functional today. Researchers believe these viruses play a critical role in the island's ecosystem by infecting the blooms of snow algae that turn the ice dark. While this might sound like a minor biological detail, it has global implications. Darker ice absorbs more sunlight, which accelerates melting. If these giant viruses act as a natural top-down control on the algae, they could be the only thing slowing down the disintegration of the ice sheet. We are only just beginning to understand how these organisms function in such an extreme environment. But the real concern lies deeper than the surface. As the permafrost, the permanently frozen ground surrounding the ice, continues to thaw, it is releasing ancient organisms that have been trapped for tens of thousands of years. Scientists have already successfully revived viruses from Siberian permafrost that were nearly 50,000 years old, proving that these pathogens can remain infectious after eons in the deep freeze. Greenland's permafrost is a similar time-stamped archive. These Methuselah microbes are relics of a world that existed before modern humans, and our immune systems have had zero exposure to them. The threat isn't necessarily a Hollywood-style outbreak, but rather the reintroduction of ancient biological agents into a modern world that is completely unprepared for their unique evolutionary traits. The scale of this reawakening is hard to overstate. Every foot of ice that melts acts as a door opening to the past. The organisms emerging from the vault are not just curiosities. They are active biological agents capable of breaking down ancient organic matter and releasing massive amounts of greenhouse gases like methane and carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. The warmer it gets, the more microbes wake up to decompose organic material. And the more gas they release, the warmer the planet becomes. We are essentially watching a biological engine jumpstart itself after being stalled for 1,000,000 years. The most unsettling part of this find is that we don't know the limits of what is waiting in the cold. We are finding giant viruses that shouldn't be active, and ancient pathogens that shouldn't be alive. These organisms are masters of survival, capable of enduring extreme pressure and sub-zero temperatures for millennia. They are a reminder that the ice was never just water. It was a security seal. Now that the seal is broken, we are forced to share the planet with life forms that were supposed to be extinct forever. The microbial vault is open, and we have no way to close it. As these microscopic threats emerge from their frozen slumber, we are forced to ask, what other massive, man-made secrets have we buried in the ice, thinking they would stay hidden forever? The Hiawatha impact. While we often think of Greenland as a static shield of ice, its foundation bears the scars of a violent cosmic history that we are only just beginning to map. In 2015, a team of scientists from the University of Copenhagen noticed a massive circular depression in the bedrock beneath the Hiawatha Glacier. While reviewing NASA radar data, they soon realized they were looking at a 19-mile-wide meteorite crater, an impact site larger than the city of Washington, D.C., buried under nearly a kilometer of solid ice. This was the first time an impact crater of this magnitude had ever been discovered beneath a continental ice sheet, and its presence suggests that Greenland's frozen surface is masking a much more chaotic past than we ever dared to imagine. For a long time, the age of this crater was a subject of intense debate. Because the structure looked so fresh and well-preserved in radar scans, some researchers initially suspected it might be a very recent addition to Earth's geography, perhaps even striking as recently as 12,000 years ago. If that were true, it would have meant our human ancestors witnessed an iron asteroid over a kilometer wide slamming into the Arctic, potentially triggering a mini ice age. However, advanced dating techniques using argon gas and uranium-lead analysis of shocked zircon grains finally provided a definitive answer in 2022. The impact actually happened roughly 58 million years ago. This means the asteroid hit during the Paleocene epoch, a time when Greenland was not a frozen wasteland, but a temperate, forested paradise. The sheer energy released during this event is almost impossible to visualize. When the iron asteroid punched into the Earth's crust, it would have released the energy of several hundred nuclear bombs. It didn't just leave a hole, it vaporized the bedrock, creating shocked quartz. crystals that have been physically deformed by extreme pressure and temperature. The impact would have incinerated forests for hundreds of miles, sent massive shock waves through the tectonic plates, and injected enough dust into the stratosphere to briefly alter the global climate. Finding this scar today is like finding a crime scene that has been hidden under a white sheet for millions of years. But the most pressing reason this discovery matters today is how it affects the stability of the modern ice sheet. The crater isn't just a dead hole in the ground, it's a bowl that collects and funnels heat and meltwater. The Hiawatha Glacier, which flows directly over the crater, is one of the most active and rapidly changing glaciers in the region. The disturbed topography of the crater floor makes the ice above it more prone to fracturing and sliding. This creates a situation where an ancient cosmic accident is now accelerating the modern-day melting process. The freshness of the crater's rim and its central peaks continues to interact with the flowing ice, creating a turbulent environment that defies standard climate models. Furthermore, the discovery of the Hiawatha crater led scientists to find a possible second, even larger impact site just 114 miles away. If confirmed, it suggests that Greenland may have been a target for multiple massive impacts during its long history. These craters represent deep structural weaknesses in the Earth's crust that are only being revealed as the ice thins. We are learning that the ice sheet isn't just sitting on a solid floor. It's sitting on a graveyard of celestial collisions. As the ice disappears, these ancient scars are being reactivated, influencing how water moves and how the land responds to the loss of weight. This shows us that the scary part of Greenland isn't just the future melt. It's the violent, unpredictable history that the ice has been hiding. We are finally seeing the island for what it really is, a rugged, ancient landmass that has been hit by the universe and is now being stripped bare by a warming world. The Hiawatha crater is a monument to a world that was green before it was white, and it reminds us that permanent features can be erased in a single fiery instant. If a massive iron asteroid couldn't destroy this island's foundation, what happens when the threat comes from something we built ourselves? Project Iceworm's ghost. Evolutionary biology isn't the only thing we have hidden in the frost. Some of our most dangerous secrets are man-made. In 1959, at the height of the Cold War, the U.S. military launched a top-secret mission called Project Iceworm. The goal was to build a massive network of mobile nuclear missile silos hidden deep inside the Greenland ice sheet, capable of striking targets within the Soviet Union. To test the feasibility of this under-ice empire, they constructed Camp Century, a subterranean city that housed up to 200 soldiers and was powered by the world's first portable nuclear reactor. At the time, engineers believed the ice was a permanent, impenetrable shield that would entomb their facility forever. They were wrong. By 1967, the military realized that the ice sheet was not a static block of ice, but a moving, shifting glacier. The tunnels began to warp and collapse under the immense pressure of the moving snow, forcing the Pentagon to abandon the base. While the nuclear reactor itself was eventually removed, the military left behind a toxic legacy. Buried under layers of ice are approximately 200,000 liters of diesel fuel, vast quantities of polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, and thousands of liters of untreated radioactive coolant and sewage. For decades, this was a non-issue because the waste was buried 36 meters deep, safely out of reach of the atmosphere. However, as Greenland's surface continues to melt at an unprecedented rate, forever is running out of time. Recent climate models suggest that by the end of this century, the net balance of the ice sheet at Camp Century could shift from accumulating snow to losing ice. If the current rate of warming continues, the radioactive and chemical waste could begin to resurface as early as 2090. This isn't just a local environmental problem, it is a ticking diplomatic time bomb. The waste is located in a semi-sovereign territory of Denmark, but the responsibility for the cleanup remains a point of contention between the US, Denmark, and the government of Greenland. The horrifying reality of Project Iceworm is that it represents a human-made feedback loop. We buried these materials thinking the climate was constant, but our own industrial activities have changed the very environment we used as a landfill. If these toxins reach the coast, they could bioaccumulate in the marine ecosystem, poisoning the fish and mammals that the local Inuit populations rely on for survival. We are essentially watching a Cold War ghost return to haunt the 21st century. The ice is no longer a vault. It has become a slow-motion delivery system for hazardous waste. This serves as a grim reminder that our past decisions have a long tail. We treated the Arctic like a blank spot on the map where things could be forgotten, but the Earth doesn't forget. As the ice thins, the line between buried and exposed is disappearing. We are finding that the most dangerous things in the ice aren't just ancient viruses or meteorites, but the toxic debris of our own short-sightedness. Project Iceworm proves that even our most secure hiding places are vulnerable to a changing planet, and the bill for our secret history is finally coming due. But while man-made waste is a visible threat, there are other, more natural ways the ice sheet is literally hollowing itself out from the inside. The ticking abyss. While scientists have mapped the massive canyons and detected ancient DNA, some of the most urgent changes in Greenland are happening through a process that looks like the island is literally devouring itself. Across the surface of the 2-mile-thick ice sheet, thousands of brilliant, sapphire-blue lakes form every summer as the sun beats down on the white expanse. These supraglacial lakes look peaceful from a satellite view, but they are actually the fuses for a massive geological explosion. When the water pressure in these lakes reaches a critical point, it doesn't just overflow, it fractures the ice all the way to the bottom. In a matter of hours, a lake containing billions of gallons of water can vanish, draining through a vertical shaft called a moulin. A moulin is essentially a giant internal drain pipe that connects the surface of the glacier directly to the bedrock below. These shafts can be several dozen meters wide and drop over a half-mile straight down through the solid ice. When a lake drains, it sends a high-pressure pulse of water hitting the rock with enough force to actually lift the entire ice sheet off the ground. Recent observations from 2025 and early 2026 show that these drainage events are becoming more frequent and are occurring in triangular fracture patterns that were never seen before. Scientists are now seeing the ice crack open in real time, creating a connected system of pipes and channels that are hollowing out the interior of the island. Once that surface water reaches the base, it acts like grease on a bowling alley. Instead of the ice being stuck to the jagged rock, it begins to slide toward the ocean at an accelerated rate. This isn't a slow, predictable melt. It is a mechanical failure. Every new moulin that opens up is another point of weakness, allowing warmer surface air and water to penetrate the deep, cold heart of the glacier. As the summer seasons lengthen, now extending well into September, the volume of water being funneled into these abysses is reaching record highs. Furthermore, this internal hollowing is revealing that the ice sheet behaves more like a living, elastic organism than a static block of ice. Radar data has recently shown blisters forming beneath the ice, massive subglacial lakes that push the surface upward as water collects at the base. This vertical movement creates even more stress, triggering new fractures miles away from the original drainage site. We are witnessing the birth of a feedback loop where the ice breaks, the water drains, the glacier slides, and the resulting stress breaks more ice. It is a runaway process that traditional climate models have struggled to capture because it happens so fast, often in a single afternoon. This hollowing process effectively means that Greenland is losing mass from the top, the bottom, and the inside all at once. The ice sheet is now at its warmest in 1,000 years and is shedding roughly 264 gigatons of ice every year. To visualize that, imagine a block of ice the size of a city block, but 3 kilometers high, disappearing every few minutes. The ticking abyss of the moulins is the mechanism that makes this massive loss possible, turning a solid fortress of ice into a fragile, honeycombed shell that is ready to collapse into the sea. As these blue holes continue to fracture the bedrock and accelerate the slide, the question is no longer if the ice will reach the ocean, but what happens to the rest of the world when it does. The global ripple. The frightening discoveries in Greenland are not contained by its icy borders. They are the first dominoes in a global collapse. As the dark river accelerates and the microbial vault opens, the resulting mass of fresh water is hitting the North Atlantic like a tidal wave. This isn't just about sea levels rising. It is about the destabilization of the very systems that keep our modern world functioning. The Greenland ice sheet holds enough water to raise global sea levels by 7.4 meters, over 24 feet. While a total melt would take centuries, we are already seeing the incremental melt create systemic risks that business leaders and urban planners are now forced to treat as material threats. The most immediate danger is the potential collapse of the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, AMOC, the conveyor belt of the ocean that moves heat from the tropics to the North Atlantic. New research in 2026 suggests the AMOC is significantly more likely to reach a tipping point than previously thought, with some models predicting a major slowdown or even a 65% deceleration by 2100. If this system shuts down, the consequences are catastrophic. Western Europe could plunge into extreme winters and summer droughts, while tropical rainfall belts, on which millions rely for food, would shift entirely. An AMOC collapse could even flip the Southern Ocean from a carbon sink into a carbon source, adding an extra 0.2 degrees Celsius to global warming. On the coastlines, the economic bill is already coming due. Nearly 600 million people live in coastal zones worldwide, areas that generate roughly $1 trillion in global wealth. In East Asia alone, over 12 million people across 23 cities are at risk of severe flooding, with assets worth $864 billion exposed to 1-in-100-year flood events. By 2100, countries like Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam could lose 6.7% of their annual GDP to climate-related damages, more than twice the global average loss. For low-lying nations like the Maldives, where the average height is just 1.5 meters, a 1-meter rise in sea level isn't just an economic hit, it is an existential end. We are also seeing the albedo effect fail in real time. As white ice melts into dark water or gray rock, Greenland stops reflecting solar radiation and starts absorbing it, a process driving Arctic amplification. This thermal shift doesn't stay in the Arctic. It disrupts the jet stream, fueling the erratic heat waves and forever storms we are seeing across North America and Europe. The scary part of this find is that the island is no longer a cooling shield. It has become a planetary radiator. From the ports of Rotterdam to the industrial hubs of Shenzhen, the stability of the global economy is now tethered to the stability of the Greenland ice sheet. We are realizing that our planetary boundaries are not just scientific theories, they are the walls of the room we live in, and those walls are thinning. As we stand on the edge of these tipping points, the question shifts from "what did we find?" to "what do we do now?" What the sentinels say. Greenland was once our most reliable sentinel, a silent, frozen witness to the Earth's history. But the discoveries of 2025 and 2026 have shown us that the sentinel is no longer silent. From the 2-million-year-old DNA of a lost world to the radioactive ghosts of the Cold War and the giant viruses waking up in the slush, every find points to a single truth. The ice was a temporary lid on a very volatile pot. We used to think of these changes in terms of thousands of years, but the ticking abyss of the moulins and the accelerating AMOC slowdown show that nature moves much faster than our bureaucracies. We are digging up the past because the present is disintegrating beneath us. Greenland is not just a big piece of ice, it is the cooling system, the historical archive, and the structural foundation of our global climate. The horrifying thing captured in Greenland isn't just a single monster or a virus. It is the realization that the island's stability was the only thing keeping our world predictable. As the ice retreats, it reveals a rugged, ancient landmass that has survived meteorites and tectonic shifts. But it also reveals the fragility of the civilization that grew up during its long winter. The vault is open. The secrets are out. And now, the world must learn to live with what the ice has finally given back. Subscribe for more, and don't forget to leave your comments below.